Ever feel like you're doing everything right, but life just keeps knocking you down? One minute everything's great, the next, you're in the middle of a storm you never saw coming. If that's you, I want to talk about a story that is thousands of years old but feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's the story of a man named Job. Now, Job wasn't just a good guy. The Bible describes him as blameless and upright, a man who feared God and shunned evil. He had it all: a huge family, massive wealth, respect in his community. He was the picture of success and blessing. And then, in a blink of an eye, it was all gone. First, his livestock and servants were wiped out by raiders and freak accidents. Then, a powerful wind collapsed the house where all 10 of his children were, and they were gone. Just like that. In a single day, Job lost his fortune and his family. Can you even imagine that level of grief? Most people would crumble. They'd curse the heavens, shake their fists at the sky, and ask, "Why me?" And what did Job do? He tore his robe, shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshipped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Wow, even in the deepest, darkest moment of his life, his first instinct was to worship. But the story doesn't end there. The suffering gets worse. Job is then struck with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He's sitting in ashes, scraping his skin with a piece of broken pottery. He's completely broken, physically and emotionally. His own wife, seeing his misery, tells him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." Essentially, just give up. What's the point? This is where the story gets really interesting. 3 of Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, hear about his tragedy and come to comfort him. For 7 days and 7 nights, they just sit with him in silence, because they see how immense his suffering is. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone who's hurting is just be present. No words, just presence. But then, they start talking. And that's where things go sideways. Job finally breaks his silence and curses the day he was born. He doesn't curse God, but he questions everything. He's in agony, and he wants to know why. Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? He's saying, "I can't see a way forward. I feel trapped. God, where are you?" His friends have an answer. A simple one. They operate on what we call retribution theology. It's the idea that if you do good things, God blesses you. If you do bad things, God punishes you. Since Job is suffering so terribly, their logic is simple. He must have done something really, really bad to deserve it. Eliphaz starts first, gently at first, suggesting that no innocent person has ever perished. He's basically saying, "Job, you must have sinned. Just confess what you did, and God will restore you." Bildad is a bit more blunt. He says Job's children must have sinned, and that's why they died. Imagine hearing that as a grieving father. Zophar is the harshest of all, telling Job he's probably getting off easy and deserves even worse punishment. For chapter after chapter, they go back and forth. He knows he hasn't done anything to deserve this. He's not perfect, nobody is, but he's lived a righteous life. He's confused, he's angry, he's desperate for an audience with God to plead his case. This is the core of the struggle. Job is wrestling with a faith that doesn't seem to make sense anymore. The formula he thought he understood, be good and be blessed, has been shattered. He is living in the terrifying space between his experience of suffering and his belief in a good and just God. He cries out, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." He holds on to his faith even when it feels like God himself is his enemy. This is so real. How many of us have been there? We face a diagnosis, a job loss, a betrayal, and the why question haunts us. And sometimes, well-meaning people offer us easy, simple answers that feel hollow and hurtful, just like Job's friends. They try to fit our immense, complicated pain into a neat little theological box. But life and God are rarely that simple. After 37 chapters of this painful debate, a new character appears. A young man named Eliphaz. He's been listening the whole time, and he's frustrated with both Job and his friends. He tells the friends they failed to answer Job, and he tells Job he was wrong to justify himself rather than God. Eliphaz suggests that suffering isn't always punishment. Sometimes, God uses it to teach us, to refine us, to get our attention and draw us closer to Him. He opens a door to a different way of thinking about pain. And then, finally, God speaks. And He doesn't speak from a burning bush or a gentle whisper. He answers Job out of a whirlwind, a storm. And what does He say? Does He give Job the explanation he's been begging for? Does He list Job's secret sins, or reveal the cosmic bet that started it all? No, He doesn't. Instead, God asks Job a series of questions. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? He goes on and on, talking about the wonders of the cosmos, the oceans, the weather, the wild animals. He describes the ostrich, the mighty horse, the hawk, and the eagle. He asks Job if he can command the dawn or tame the wild ox. He is essentially showing Job a tiny glimpse of the sheer scale, complexity, and untamed power of the universe he created and sustains. The point isn't to belittle Job, it's to humble him. It's to shift his perspective. Job was demanding answers from a courtroom perspective, as if he and God were equals. God responds by revealing that His wisdom and His ways are so far beyond human comprehension that Job's demand for a simple explanation is like a single ant demanding to understand the mind of an engineer building a skyscraper. God never tells Job why he suffered. He doesn't explain the heavenly wager. He simply reveals who He is, the all-powerful, all-wise creator of the universe. And in the face of that revelation, Job's questions just dissolve. Job's response is profound. He says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." He isn't repenting for some secret sin. He's repenting for his arrogance in thinking he could ever fully understand God's ways. He's repenting for demanding an explanation when what he really needed was a revelation of God Himself. He had a theology about God, but now he has a relationship with God. The suffering didn't make sense, but seeing God was enough. And in the end, God restores Job. He gives him double the wealth he had before, a new family of 10 children, and a long, full life. And he rebukes Job's 3 friends, telling them they did not speak rightly about him, as Job did. Job, the one who questioned, who wrestled, who screamed his pain at the sky, he was the one who spoke truthfully about God, because he was honest in his struggle. So what's the takeaway for us? The book of Job doesn't give us a neat answer for why we suffer. In fact, it does the opposite. It tells us that sometimes there is no answer we can understand on this side of eternity. Sometimes life is painful and unfair, and it's not because you did something wrong. The real lesson of Job is that our faith isn't built on our ability to understand God's plan. It's built on our trust in God's character. It's about being able to say, "I don't get it. This hurts more than I can bear. But I know you are good. I know you are sovereign, and I will trust you even in the darkness." It's about choosing faith over bitterness when everything falls apart. It is about learning that an encounter with the presence of God is more powerful than any explanation He could ever give us. If you're in a season of suffering right now, I hope Job's story encourages you. It's okay to ask why. It's okay to be angry and confused. God can handle your questions. Bring your pain to Him honestly, but don't let go of who you know Him to be. Trust that even when you can't see His hand, you can trust His heart. Thanks for watching today. If this video resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that dives deep into these timeless stories of faith. We'll see you in the next one.